Welcome back to Bookcast. You know the deal. Bestsellers in minutes. And today we're diving deep into Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Ooh, this one is so good.
It really is. And honestly, I think everyone can get something out of this one.
Oh, for sure. I mean, who doesn't want to unlock their potential, right?
Exactly. You know what I really appreciate about this book is that it's not just some vague self-help stuff. It's like it actually breaks down the science of habit formation into practical steps.
Totally. It's not just theory. It's like actionable advice you can use right away.
Exactly. So today we're going to break down some of those key insights and hopefully give our listeners some real tools they can use to build better habits and reach their goals.
And break those bad ones. We've all got them.
Oh yeah, we've all got those habits we wish we could just snap our fingers and change, right?
Ugh, tell me about it. But that's what I love about Atomic Habits. It shows you that you don't need some crazy willpower or like a total life overhaul to make real progress.
It's all about those tiny changes, those 1% improvements that add up over time.
Exactly. And that's what's so cool about James Clear himself. Like, he embodies this philosophy. You
Mhm.
know, he actually started out.
Wait, before you tell that story, can you just, for our listener who maybe hasn't picked up the book yet, can you give us a little background on James Clear? Like, who is he? Why should we listen to him?
Right. Okay. So James Clear, he's basically like a habits guru, right? He spent years researching and writing about the science of habit formation.
And he's not just some guy who read a few research papers. He's really dug deep into this
Oh,
stuff.
yeah. He's like the real deal. He's got this website, this newsletter. It's super popular. People love his work because it's like evidence-based, but also really practical, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's what makes Atomic Habits so compelling. It's not just like some motivational fluff. It's like grounded in real science.
For sure. Okay, so back to the story, right? So picture this. High school, promising baseball player, and then boom, devastating injury that nearly ended his athletic career.
Oh, wow. I remember reading about this. It was pretty intense, wasn't it?
It was. Multiple facial fractures, detached retina, even seizures, like seriously scary stuff.
So how did he even recover from all that?
That's a thing, right? His recovery was a testament to the power of tiny changes.
Like Atomic Habits in action.
Literally, it wasn't some overnight miracle. It was a series of tiny, consistent actions day after day that eventually led to him not just recovering, but thriving.
I think that's what makes this concept so powerful. It's not about some massive, overwhelming change. It's about making those small, manageable improvements over time.
And that's exactly what he teaches in Atomic Habits. He basically says, forget about setting goals, focus on building systems.
Whoa, okay, hold up. Forget about goals. That's like the opposite of what we're always
I
told, right?
know, right? It sounds kind of counterintuitive, but it makes so much sense when you think about it. Goals are about that end result, right? Like winning the game.
But systems are about how you play the game.
Exactly. They're about those daily actions, those habits that determine whether you win or lose in the long run.
So, if your goal is to run a marathon, the system is your training plan. Your daily runs, your nutrition, your rest days.
Exactly. It's the process that gets you there, not just the end goal itself.
It's a huge mindset shift I think a lot of people could benefit from. Honestly, I'm kind of rethinking my own approach to goals now.
Me too.
Hmm.
It's really changed how I think about achieving things.
Hmm.
And it's not just some abstract concept. Clear breaks it down into like a really practical framework, you know?
Okay, so break it down for us. How does he actually explain the science of habit formation?
Well, he starts with the 4 stages of a habit cue: craving, response, and reward.
Okay, so it's a cycle.
Right, it's a loop, and it's happening all the time, whether we realize it or not.
Think about checking your phone. The notification is the cue, the curiosity about who it's from is the craving, picking up your phone is the response, and satisfying that curiosity is the reward.
And then it starts all over again with the next notification.
It's kind of scary how automatic it is, right?
Yeah.
We're not even consciously thinking about it most of the time.
That's the thing about habits. They bypass our conscious decision-making process. And that's why understanding the cycle is so crucial, because once you see it, you can start to, hack it.
Okay, that's what I want to know. How do we hack it? What are some of those hacks that Clear gives us to start building better habits?
Okay, so one of the big ones is making your desired habits obvious and attractive.
Okay, so instead of just saying, I want to eat healthier, you might, prep your meals for the week and put them in clear containers right at the front of the fridge.
Yeah, exactly. Make it easy to grab the healthy option. Out of sight, out of mind, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to cut back on sweets, don't have a candy bowl on the counter.
No, that's so smart. I'm going to hide my chocolate stash right now.
And there are some even cooler strategies, like habit stacking and temptation bundling.
Ooh, tell me more about those.
Okay, so habit stacking is basically linking a new habit to an existing one. So, like, if you always make coffee in the morning, maybe after you pour your coffee, you do a 5-minute meditation.
So the old habit becomes the trigger for the new one.
Exactly. And then temptation bundling is all about making those should-do habits more enjoyable.
Like only letting yourself watch your favorite show while you're on the treadmill.
Yes. You're bundling something you want to do with something you need to do, and suddenly it doesn't feel like a chore anymore.
I'm already feeling inspired. I think we've given our listeners a lot to chew on.
We have, but there's so much more to unpack.
I know. We haven't even touched on the power of social influence or the importance of making habits satisfying.
And we definitely need to talk about the 2-minute rule. That one's a game changer.
Okay, let's take a quick break and we'll come back to dive deeper into those practical strategies for building atomic habits.
Okay, so where were we? Oh yeah, those awesome strategies like habit stacking and temptation bundling.
Temptation bundling, right. I feel like that's the one that's going to speak to, like, everyone
Oh,
listening.
for sure. Because let's be honest, who doesn't love a little bit of like instant gratification, right?
Exactly, and that's what temptation bundling is all about, right? It's like taking something you enjoy, something you want to do,
And pairing it with something you need to do.
but might not always, like, love doing.
Exactly. It's like tricking yourself into being productive.
And it actually works. Okay, so give us an example. How can our listeners use this, like, in their everyday lives?
Okay, so let's say you love listening to podcasts, right?
Who doesn't?
Right. But you also want to, I don't know, like keep your house cleaner.
Always a struggle.
Right. So what you do is you only allow yourself to listen to your favorite podcasts while you're cleaning. Suddenly folding laundry doesn't seem so bad.
Ooh, that's a good one. And it's like you're not even depriving yourself of anything. You're just, like, making the most of your time.
Exactly. It's win-win.
Okay, I'm sold. I'm going to start temptation bundling all the things.
Do it. It's so effective. Okay, but moving on, we can't forget about habit stacking. That one's like the foundation, you know.
Totally. It's all about building those little wins, those tiny habits that eventually add up to big changes.
Right. And like we said before, it's about linking those new habits to habits you already have, habits that are like automatic.
So it's less about willpower and more about, like, smart planning.
Totally. You're basically hacking your own brain's reward system.
Give us an example, like a real-life habit stacking situation.
Okay, so let's say you want to start meditating every morning, but you always hit snooze like 5 times.
Get in there.
Relatable. So instead of trying to like force yourself to meditate first thing, you stack it onto a habit you already do, like brushing your teeth.
Oh, I see. So after I brush my teeth, I meditate.
Exactly. That way, brushing your teeth becomes the cue to meditate. It's already built into your routine.
Makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And it's like you're not adding this huge, overwhelming task to your day. You're just, like, slipping it in there.
Right. And over time, it just becomes second nature, like brushing your teeth.
Okay, so we've got temptation bundling. We've got habit stacking. What else?
Oh, there's so much more. But I think one of the biggest takeaways from Atomic Habits is that it's not just about, like, individual actions. It's about the whole system.
Like the environment we create for ourselves.
Exactly. Clear talks about the importance of designing your environment to support your habits. Like, if you're trying to eat healthier, don't have junk food in the house.
Out of sight, out of mind, right?
Yes. Make the healthy choices easy and the unhealthy choices hard.
So, like, maybe prepping your fruits and veggies and putting them in those clear containers right at eye level in the fridge.
Exactly. Or if you're trying to, like, reduce screen time, maybe you put your phone in a drawer when you're working so you're not tempted to check it every 5 seconds.
I definitely need to try that.
It's all about setting yourself up for success by, like, removing those temptations and making those good choices the easy choices.
So it's not just about willpower. It's about, like, being strategic with your surroundings.
Right. It's like setting yourself up for a win before you even start.
Yeah. And I think that's a really empowering message. It's not about being perfect. It's about being smart.
And consistent. Consistency is key, right? That's what really builds those habits over time.
And speaking of consistency, we haven't even talked about the power of tracking your habits.
Oh, tracking is huge. It's like a visual reminder of your progress, and it can be super motivating.
I love using those habit tracker apps. It's, like, so satisfying to check off those boxes every day.
Right. And it also helps you identify patterns, like maybe you notice that you're more likely to skip the gym if you haven't packed your gym bag the night before.
Oh, that's so true. And then you can, like, adjust your routine accordingly.
Exactly. Tracking gives you that data, that feedback to help you fine-tune your approach.
And then there's the whole social aspect of habit formation, which I
Right.
think is really interesting.
Oh, yeah, we can't forget about that. Clear talks about how our habits are influenced by the people around us, like our friends, family, even just the people we admire.
It's true. Like if all your friends are into fitness, you're more likely to be into fitness too.
Totally. And it works the other way, too. If everyone around you is eating junk food and watching TV all day, it's going to be harder for you to resist.
So surrounding yourself with people who share your values and goals can be a huge game changer.
It's like building that support system, that network of people who are on the same journey as you.
And you can even like create mini accountability systems with your friend.
Right, yeah, for sure. Like having a workout buddy or a study group, that can make a huge difference.
It's all about leveraging the power of social influence to your advantage.
And speaking of social influence, what about the idea of an accountability partner? Clear talks about that a lot, right?
Yeah, and I think that can be really helpful, especially when you're struggling to stay motivated.
It's like having someone who's there to support you, to check in on your progress, and maybe even give you a little tough love when you need it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we need that external push, that extra bit of accountability to keep us on track.
It's true. Like if you know someone's waiting for you at the gym at 6 a.m., you're less likely to hit snooze.
Okay, we've talked about a lot of different strategies here, but ultimately, I think the biggest takeaway is that building better habits is a process, right?
It's not about being perfect, it's about being consistent and showing up for yourself day after day.
And I think that's something we can all get behind, right? It's about progress, not perfection.
Exactly. And remember, those tiny changes, those atomic habits, they really do add up over time.
So don't underestimate the power of those small actions.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we've covered a lot of ground here. Are we ready to move on to the final stretch?
Yes. I'm excited to see what other nuggets of wisdom we can uncover in the world of atomic habits. All right, so we've talked about all these amazing strategies for building better habits, right? But I think the question a lot of people have is like, where do I even start?
Yeah, it can be kind of overwhelming, right? Like there's so much information out there.
Totally. And that's why I think one of the most valuable things Clear offers in Atomic Habits is this idea of like understanding your own personality.
Okay, so it's not just one size fits all. Like what works for me might not work for you.
Exactly, because we all have different strengths, different weaknesses, different tendencies, you know.
Right, like some people are naturally more organized, some people are more spontaneous.
Totally. And Clear actually uses the big five personality traits as a framework.
Okay, remind us, what are those again?
So it's openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism.
Got it. So how do those like actually play into habit formation?
Well, the idea is that by understanding where you fall on each of those scales, you can choose habits that are more likely to stick, habits that align with your natural tendencies.
So like if you're super conscientious, you might be really good at creating systems and routines.
Exactly. Whereas someone who's more like free-spirited might thrive in an environment that's more flexible, you know?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's about like working with your personality, not against it.
Exactly. And it goes back to that idea of making things easy, right? If you choose habits that fit your natural inclinations, it's going to be that much easier to stick with them.
Okay, I'm on board with that. So we figure out our personality type, we choose habits that align with our strengths. Then what?
Well, then it's all about those practical strategies we talked about, right? Making those habits obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying.
Right, all those hacks. But even with all that, sometimes we still struggle, you know?
Yeah.
Like there's that voice in our heads that's like, what's the point?
Ugh, the inner critic. We all have it.
So how do we deal with that? How do we stay motivated when those doubts start creeping in?
Well, this is where I think Clear's insights about identity really shine.
Okay, the identity piece. I've been wanting to hear more about this. What's the connection between our identity and our habits?
So Clear argues that lasting change starts with a shift in how you see yourself. It's not just about changing your actions, it's about changing your beliefs about who you are.
So like instead of saying, I'm trying to quit smoking, you'd say, I'm a non-smoker.
Exactly. It's a subtle shift, but it's super powerful because when you see yourself as a non-smoker, your actions start to align with that identity.
So it's like, you're not just like trying to change a behavior, you're actually changing the story you tell yourself about who you are.
Right. And the more you act in alignment with that identity, the stronger it becomes and the easier it is to stick with those habits.
That's so cool. And it makes so much sense because our habits really do shape who we are, you know? Like If you have a habit of exercising every day, you start to see yourself as a fit person.
Exactly. And then it becomes easier to make those healthy choices because it's just like part of who you are.
Okay, so I'm starting to get the big picture here. But I think the question a lot of our listeners are probably asking right now is, how do I actually do this? Like, how do I make these changes stick?
Well, that's where all those practical strategies we talked about come in, right? Like
Mm.
habit stacking, temptation bundling, designing your environment, tracking your progress.
And finding those accountability buddies.
Yes. It's about creating that whole system that supports your desired identity.
Okay, so it's not just about like willpower or motivation. It's about setting ourselves up for success with the right tools and strategies.
Exactly. And it's about being patient with yourself. Change takes time.
And consistency. Like,
Right.
we're not going to transform overnight, right? It's about those small, consistent actions that add up over time.
Right. Remember, it's all about those atomic habits, those tiny changes that eventually create those remarkable results.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today, from the science of habit formation to the practical strategies for making those habits stick. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners who are ready to start building those atomic habits?
Just remember, it's a journey, not a destination. Be kind to yourself, celebrate those small wins, and keep showing up day after day.
And don't underestimate the power of those tiny changes. They really can transform your life.
All right.
That's it for our deep dive into Atomic Habits by James Clear. We hope you've enjoyed this bookcast breakdown and that you've walked away with some actionable insights to help you create positive changes in your own life.
And remember, bestsellers in minutes. That's what we do here at Bookcast.
Join us next time as we break down another bestseller and help you unlock your potential, one book at a time.